And now it's time to get some washes on this. When it comes to washes, some things it's awesome, like with the gold, the metal colors, but I've got difficulties getting it great on other things. I know that, you know, a lot of people call a wash sort of instant awesomeness. I've tried sort of having washes on, say, this, when I painted this red stuff previously. It doesn't look nice with a wash on it. I don't like the way it turns out. What I will be doing, that I know that I'll be doing with the washes, say on the red, I have this, let's see, where is it? Carsborough Crimson. I'll be using that at the edges. So it'll be up here where the skirt touches the armor, or where it touches the scabbard here or up here, just to get a sort of a bit more contrast in there. Washes, it's sometimes difficult to know what they'll end up looking like when they're dry. But a nice thing to do is you can just brush it out on paper, and then you'll have an idea of what actually the color is. I've cut out plastic cups, just the bottom of a plastic cup, so that I can add some wash in here and add some water. My wet palette is full. I want to keep the paints in my wet palette for touching up work later on or highlighting. So I've just been filling in the small edges here and there, and I decided that, because I tried a little bit on this strip here, just to get a bit of a tonal difference between the red on the general here and the cloth hanging over, and this cloth, I'm just gonna actually this time put a wash on this all over it. So with the wash you want to be working quite you know, using quite a lot of it. This is still a diluted version. For the blue, I've got this blue wash. So once more I can just paint a streak on here and see it's kind of grayish green blue. So I'm just gonna go for it, because it'll just bring out these scales real nicely. You can see that really changes the color. It sort of becomes more green than blue. So what I can do again, if I don't really like the result, dip my brush in water, dry it out a little bit, and just try and remove some of it. And the paint underneath will sort of start shining through more. The thing with the washes is I find they sort of a little bit ruin the effect of the layer blending that I've been doing beforehand, because it sort of all blends everything into one color. So it's about just trying to figure out if it's something I like or not. Now that I've done that all over the scales of the griffin, I'm going to take undiluted of this blue wash and just add around some of the edges. Just sort of separates things, and it also hides a bad paint job. Now for the armor on Mr. General here, I use the diluted version, and then I'll take my brush, dip it in water, and try and soak up some of the wash from the edges and from the center. I don't know if you can see the original paint shining through. Now I know it's silly with, here's a little something I prepared earlier, but I've been making a batch mixture of Vallejo black wash, Vallejo brown wash, and there's also some of this red, a little bit, and water. And it's a mixture I've been using for the armor. It's basically a watered down black with a bit of brown and red in it. This isn't a warm wash, it's more of it sort of gives it a bit more of a dirty look, a grungier look. If I would have used the Flesh Shade from Citadel, it would have given a lot more warm tone to the gold. That'll look pretty cool once it dries, I reckon. So I'm gonna keep on doing this on all the gold. That'll take a while, so I'll just do it and return to you. I'm gonna take this Vallejo black wash and go over all the black areas, but also the brown sort of leather, the saddle, and I'm not gonna use a diluted wash. I'm gonna just use it as dark as possible because the claws, maybe the beak, we'll see. I really like the beak, the way it turned out, but the claws, I wouldn't mind if they have a different feel to them. Like usually when you use a wash, it becomes a bit more glossy. I'll use this, it'll make them a bit brown, warm brown. So it'll change the color of them that they are now. But I wouldn't mind if they got a little bit more warmer. Okay, so this is one of those moments where you either screw up or you make things better. I've decided to add some wash to the bird. I've mixed some of the blue wash with some black wash and some water. I just felt that there's so many small details here that really could benefit from a wash. This will definitely change my beautiful grey color. So be it. And then just hope for the best and see what it looks like when it dries. I will remove as much as I can the places I don't think need a wash. So I clean my brush with water, try and dry it on paper, and I'll just work my way around this. So I didn't ruin it, I just made it darker, I guess. I kind of like it. I'm not going to do anything about the beak or the head piece because I really like the way they are. I'm not going to ruin that. I'm going to wash the base. I've prepared already sort of some black wash, a little bit of brown and some water, Vallejo, in a cup. So I'm just going to go all over the base. And I'm also going to prepare, I've got this green. I'm going to have that open as well as the brown. And just maybe even some of the red. I'm just going to have them open here so that if I want to, I can just add a dollop here and there of some more color. But basically this is just going to be spread everywhere and it'll really darken down this base. But it will look nice. It's difficult to see how this turns out before it dries. I also did there's a flower behind there. I put some green wash on the leaves. I accidentally sort of used this mixture on the hooves as well. So, you know, they became a bit darker. Now I'm going to use the same mixture for this this thing up here. The whatchamacallit? The little banner, scroll, holy text that they're all running around with. Because most of the washes are almost dry. I'm going to start with highlights, and if you're not shaky, if you haven't got a shaky hand like me, then you know you can paint highlights. Nice straight lines and filling in things, and you can probably go on forever painting highlights. I very rarely do it because my hands are, as I said, shaky, and it just smudges things and I don't like it. So I mainly dry brush. Dry brushing works for some things, and for some things it doesn't work that well. But I dry brush most things. I'm going to start with the gold. Dry brushing, you need a brush that's sort of really worn out. And I'm not going to use the gold from my wet palette. I'm going to use it from the bottle because it's better if it's sort of not all that watered out. You get paint and your brush, you have a piece of paper, and then you just dry off so that you hardly even leave a mark on the paper. Just really lightly brush on top of the ridges that you want to highlight. With the gold here, it's going to be really subtle, but this just brings back a bit of the gold that's been dulled down by the wash. On the metal here, I'm just trying to get the ridges to stand out a bit more, but otherwise when you dry brush, it's nice to go from up going down, because that's where the light's coming from. If you go from underneath going up, it's like, you know, you've got a spotlight from underneath here somewhere, which probably you don't. I've been noticing when dry brushing with metal colors like this, that sometimes it's sort of, you get stains, not stains, it's like small powdery bits of metal dust ends up here and there on the rest of your model, your miniature, sorry. So watch out for that and be a bit careful. See, I can already see around here it's got tons of small gold dusty sprinkles on it. I don't like that. All right, so I'm actually going to try and paint some gold highlights, and then I'll just paint in a little bit of gold where I want it to be bright. Next step is I'm actually going to take an old bottle of chainmail and I'll water it down a lot. So just adding on the absolute ridges or something, some of the gold, a little bit more of a sort of an effect that where the light hits. It's just that little bit lighter. All right, let's start with dry brushing the blue here. I'm going to see if I can actually get rid of some of these golden particles. So I don't want to ruin the effect that we've already built up, which is that there's darker areas and lighter areas. These bits here are lighter and these are darker. So I'll start with my medium shade blue, the turquoise. Not much of a difference. A little bit down here. Okay, so that didn't really help me out greatly. I just touched up a little bit on the darker areas. So I'm gonna need a lighter color. I'll take my light gray, mix in with some turquoise, light turquoise, try and just empty my brush of paint. Okay, so let's see what this does. So I can probably have an even lighter color than this. So I'll go with just the light blue that I've got. It's discreet. It's not all that much happening, but it is doing a little bit. Okay, so we're going to go a shade even brighter. So I'll mix turquoise, pastel blue, and then white. Lots of white. And I want to make sure just to get all of the paint out now, because if this smudges, too much paint on the brush, then I won't be happy. See, this is really showing. So this I only want in what would be perceived as the brighter areas. I don't think I'll do much more than that. I like the way it looks. It doesn't, in my world, it doesn't need to be more exaggerated than that. While I got this on my brush, I'll see if I can highlight these other blue details a little bit. Next, I'm going to do some bits on the bird, I think. I'm going to use the stone gray. I think I might use some over here, but I think I need a browner color for that. I use some of this on the tail just to smudge it out a little bit. But for those hairs, I think I might need... I'll try some of this on... No, that's not going to look good. What about the wings? I'll try some on the wings. Yeah, see, this looks nice. And these small dots here. I mean, you're getting the idea. I've just been dry brushing my way around. I'm going to move down to the base. I'm using my tan earth. This is dry brush galore. This stuff, this texture down here works great for dry brushing. So I'm just going to use this tan earth and maybe some gray, and then use a gray on the stones to dry brush the stones. And then I'm going to use a lighter shade. This is a bit sort of, maybe a bit too brown. Maybe I should use the stone gray. Let's see what the stone gray looks like. I think that looks better. I'm just going to work my way around the entire base, highlighting. Okay, so the base is highlighted or dry brushed, and everything else is pretty much done. I've got some small details. I noticed I had some gold up here. It's not supposed to be any gold down there. Just some red. This is not even a highlight. This is just cleaning up. See why I don't paint my highlights? It just turns to instant mess. Which is just for the fun of it, because I really like the way it looks. It's this, give it a shake, Nahylac oxide. And it looks like you've got oxide on your metal, which sort of happens. I'll test on this one down here first. You can see I'm kind of using my finger. I've got some saliva on my finger. Kind of sounds nasty maybe. And I'm going to do the same thing up on the standard here, or whatever he's got. I believe we're done. Well, we're almost done. Last thing is to paint the edge of the base. And for that I use not black, London grey. It's my darkest grey. I guess for this you could use whatever color you like. I don't really like black, so I opted for grey. I mean, there's never really any hope of getting this to blend with whatever surface you're playing on, because that can vary. You don't know if it's going to be grass or, you know, so I just want something neutral, and I think this grey is a perfect shade. That's one finished miniature. Sort of. There's one step left. I've been using a varnish on bits and pieces, a matte varnish. It doesn't really turn all that matte. I'm going to use it on the blue because it actually shines it up a little bit more. Wherever the wash is a bit shinier, and wherever the dry brush is not shinier. I want it to be one, just have the same finish. And I'll also probably use varnish on the base just to protect it a little bit more. Now, using a varnish is It's not at all necessary, it's just a step that I like to do. And I guess a good thing to think about is if you use a varnish, then you'll have a difficult time stripping your miniature. So just use a varnish if you're thinking that, you know, I'm never going to try and repaint this ever. Now, seeing as this was my first sort of paint a miniature video, I hope you don't mind the light and, you know, all the technical things and me saying a lot, because I try and think of what to say while painting, which is really difficult. I'm gonna get some good pictures of this with a better light and try and make sure that the colors are correct and everything, so you can sort of see what it looks like. But here's Mr. General on Big Bird. Here's some images of Lord Arcanum on Gryph Charger, commonly known as General on Bird, at least in this video. I put some of his friends in there as well on some of the images just to give it a bit of a context. I'm happy with the way this turned out. I'm really happy with the griffin. The rest of the work is nice. It's actually a bit more sloppy than maybe my other miniatures, just because I was trying to film stuff, and you know, so a little bit sloppy maybe. Apart from the bird, I like the bird, but I'm happy. I like it. It fits in with the rest. And thank you for watching. Please leave questions or comments or anything below, and see you next time.